but apparently can't get you some water, but sit tight on that. This one was fresh.
All right, folks, we are behind schedule. For those checking in virtually, they understand that by now, and we want to try to keep this at about 45 minutes. So let's proceed. Let's move on. Next panel is the so-called tug of war. That would be what's going on between the suburban office market and the downtown office market. We have some excellent representation, some top-notch seasoned veterans to really hammer that message home for us to kick off the new year. So Steve Kling, to my right. Steve, those who don't know Steve represents numerous leading office building owners and developers in suburban Chicago, along with Francis Prock, who he has partnered with since 1993. He oversees Colliers International, Chicago Suburban Office Advisory Group. This team has completed approximately 3,500 real estate transactions valued at $8 billion. Colliers Chicago Suburban Office Advisory Group offers total market coverage. The team is a powerhouse in the suburban office market and leads the field in square feet leased, total transactions, and has completed more than 50% of transactions over 50,000 square feet in the past 5 years. Clients rely on Steve's 30 years of experience in the industry, giving his clients unsurpassed market knowledge and experience. He works closely with his clients to establish strategic plans consistent and complementary with their goals, objectives, and strategies, and he prides himself on open and frequent communication. Steve joined Colliers in Chicago in 2003 after spending 15 years with Grubb & Ellis Company and is a member of the firm's executive board. And I believe he received 2 years of the Average Broker of the Year award through our award program. So continue that great work. It's all you, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Well, I started counting the collective years of experience of the panel that's up here, and I stopped counting at 150 years. So you've got to.
That's just Drew.
Sorry, Drew.
Yeah, no problem. I love you guys.
So it's going to be, we're going to try to have some fun up here, talking about the tug of war between suburban and downtown. I don't know how much of a tug of war it is, but we'll have a friendly debate about it. It's interesting because, it's the Chicago metro area. You have over 8 million people that make up, Cook and the collar counties. 1/3 of the population of that little over 8 million lives in the city. 2/3 live in the suburbs. So there is a very strong demographic that exists in both in this entire metro area. I was born in Chicago. I love Chicago. I was raised in a rural area. I've always lived here. I believe in this market. Everybody sitting up here believes in this market or we wouldn't be here. So I think we're gonna have some fun. Quick introductions. So Dan Meslowski is an executive managing director at Cushman & Wakefield. Dan is the starting on, I guess that'd be your right, the panel. So Dan's an integral part of Cushman in their tenant rep group here in Chicago. Dan's an expert in advising clients both in Chicago and across the United States in strategic planning of their real estate, as well in the implementation of resulting assignments, including site selection, tenant representation, and sublease and dispositions. Drew Neiman, seated to his right. Drew is an industry veteran with extensive local and international experience. Drew has substantial expertise with large-scale central business district office leasing projects. Drew has been repeatedly awarded for completing the largest office transactions at all of the Chicago's annual events. Drew has completed many of the largest and highest profile anchor tenant transactions in the city of Chicago. Ralph Zucker, seated to Drew's right. Ralph is the president of Somerset Development. Somerset is a highly regarded real estate company in Metro New York that specializes in new urbanism and traditional neighborhood design development. Ralph is responsible for spearheading his firm's focus on creating sustainable, close-knit communities that promote pedestrian-friendly live, work, play experiences. Somerset is currently developing the Bellwork Chicagoland, which is the former 1.6 million square foot AT&T corporate headquarters in Hoffman Estates. Bellwork Chicagoland is the younger sister of Bellworks in Homedale, New Jersey. This is a 2 million square foot former Bell Labs facility that has been very successful. Under Ralph's leadership, Somerset and its projects have earned numerous industry awards and recognition for their contributions to furthering responsible development practices, Ralph has emerged as one of the nation's leading visionaries in the redevelopment and adaptive reuse of large-scale office and industrial complexes. And then seated to Ralph's right, at the end of the table, is Paul O'Connor with Hamilton Partners. Paul has worked with Hamilton Partners, for argument's sake, for his entire career. Again, I won't age him. It's been a long time since Hamilton was founded. Paul's worked on some of the highest profile and highest quality ground-up developments and build-to-suits in suburban Chicago, including buildings in the Hamilton Lakes development in Itasca, the Esplanade at Locust Point and Downers Grove, Arbor Lakes development in Lisle. Paul has also handled a downtown office portfolio for Hamilton Partners, which was disposed of in 2015. While Paul lives in the city, I know he truly is a suburban office broker at heart. So that introduces our panel. We've put together some questions that should lead to some good debate. We'll leave some time. I set my watch. He said he wanted to be done at 45. I'll leave some time for a couple of questions from the audience. So first, I'm going to start off with Dan and Drew. So many people are keeping a very close eye on employee occupancy rates in the office buildings. BOMA reported a year ago that this had slipped down below 10%. Right now, it's right around 30%. What do you think is going to happen over the next 12 months? What do you guys see?
You know, I think that the companies that value their people and value their customers know that a healthy work environment means getting people back to the office, collaborating, having mentorship, having those experiences that you can only have when you're person to person. I think we've seen that from some visionary leaders. They're leading from the top. And while our industry has been turned upside down and work from home and flexibility is here to stay, I do think that people want to come back. I think they want that collaborative environment, but it's going to need to be in a building and an office where people want to come, and there's a reason to leave home. So I'm optimistic. I have a feeling this guy is too.
Yes, thank you. You know, one of the things that's interesting is in all this discussion, I think we went from 0 at one point, and I think right now our peak is probably 35%, and that means people showed up. So we monitor the card key swipes, so we have the exact numbers each day, who shows up and who doesn't. But it's funny that the one I watch the best is our Starbucks, and they tell us when they're open and when they're not. I go, you're paying rent. They go, that's fine. We're good with that. But we'll tell you, we'll be back in a month, you know. And so I think they would close, and then they say, when you get 1,000 people, let us know. And I got to tell you, the day we got like 1,002, we were on the phone. I happen to like Starbucks coffee, and it's in our building. So it's kind of funny how you can watch a retailer to know when things are good or when they're not and trending. But you know, Maz is right that the collaboration and all that is really what the employers want, and they want their employees back. And all our discussion here is theoretical until people show up, you know. And so that is, and then when they show up, what's that going to look like? I doubt it's ever going to be 100%, you know, of what it was. I think if we got 70, we'd be feeling pretty good. But it's going to be hybrid schedules, working on 3 days a week and then some, and, you know, different things like that. But the big thing is, what is that environment going to look like that makes the employer feel safe about having his employees back, and that they're excited to be back rather than, you know, stay home and work from home. I think I had shared on we had a prep call a few days ago. I had heard one suggestion from someone who will remain nameless, said no more direct deposit. I thought that was a good idea. Yeah. I don't think he meant it, but who knows, you know? So, you know, I think we feel this year, here's what I think. Omicron is not as, at least I believe it. I experienced it over Christmas as my gift. And I gave it to my family. One size fits all. And but it is it is not what the other two versions were, I believe, and is not as, and I don't mean to diminish things, but it is not what I think the others were. And that's a good trend, because I think it's not, people aren't as fearful about it as they were when it first showed up.
Thank you. And we'll come back, sort of touch this subject again, but this goes down to the end of the table to Paul and Ralph. There's mixed reports from the home productivity rates, working from home productivity rates. It's very mixed. Some are very saying that they're losing productivity and we need to get people back in, and others are saying that they're seeing increased productivity. So it's a little confusing. Not that this is anything new, because there's been work from home. I've been in the business over 30 years, and there's always been large corporations that are testing this, and it ebbs and flows. This is a little different because it was, 90% of the people are working from home. So what do you think the future holds? And what do you think landlords are going to do to confront this?
Well, Steve, I experienced this specifically in my firm. I was showing up at work every day trying to support our real estate people in the office. And when the head of the company, Mark Hamilton, walks up to your desk and says, "Hey, you're non-essential, go home," that's a bad day. Because so I go home. I have 3 boys. 2 of them moved out to California, and 1 moved back home. And he's on the couch, he's in the dining room, he's in the kitchen, and he's killing it, and he's good at it. He's Zoom calling 5-6 times a day. If I get 2 Zoom calls in a day, I thought it was something. And he keeps telling me how productive he is. But I'm looking at him working at 7 in the morning, and he's working at 8 at night. Of course, he's on California time. So he keeps telling me how productive he is. I said, "Do you know what I do? I have office space. This isn't good to come home to." So how happy was I when in my mailbox this fall came in the University of Chicago Booth Review headline article, "Are we really more productive working from home?" So the good news is the University of Chicago, which I love because they love data, they found some data from Asia, an IT services company with 10,000 employees. They monitored their use. They all went 100% remote from May of 20 to October of 20. And they discovered that the people were working 30% more hours, and they were 20% less productive. So I tell this to everyone I can, because all these productivity comments about how productive everyone is are all surveys. And my son would tell you he's productive. But I look at him going on 3-hour hikes. I look at him looking for another job. So I'm on board with everyone. We really need to get everybody back. I think the experiment has gone on long enough. Drew's 100% right. I think this Omicron could get us out of this. The anecdotal stories he gave us are similar to 5 or 6 of my close friends and family members. So I do think we're heading back towards that. Of course, it's going to be some sort of hybrid, and we've got to really work on that. And I think Ralph can address some of those issues.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. Good afternoon. Thank you all for hanging in, even though it's so late. I think landlords have to focus on the employee experience and not leave it just up to the employer. We have to, because most employers are not really real estate developers. They don't really understand. They're coming to you. A lot of them are going through the same old tire. They're going through the same designers, the same architects, the same floor plans. They're buying the same furniture. It behooves us as a group to educate the employers on how to create the environment, both in the office and around the office, that will make their employees want to get off that proverbial couch, get out of Paul's hair, and get back into the office. We can't leave it just to, if you have a very sophisticated tenant that has, 1 million square feet all over the country, they know what they're doing. But most of the leases are happening in the, 5, 10, 20, 25,000 square foot tranches. They need to be educated. We focus a lot of our efforts on creating what we don't call it the office of the future, but in a way it is. Talk about space per per employee. Pre-pandemic, everyone was jamming them in. I think we were down to like 106 square feet per employee on average. It's going to go broader now. You're going to look at 250 square feet per employee. You need places where people can ideate and collaborate and communicate and not just sit at their desk. People say, I come to work to collaborate, to share ideas, and then I'm going to go home and get my work done. So really what we have to do, and that's what we're focused on at BellWorks, both BellWorks New Jersey and now BellWorks Chicagoland, is creating places that are inspiring. We say work inspired. It's one of our taglines. I think it's trademarked. Yeah, I should tell it to Drew, but it is trademarked. But the bottom line is we want to create inspiring places so people will want to come back to work.
Excellent. Thank you all. That was all very well done. Thank you for the research, Paul. Ralph, thanks for the inspiration. All of you guys did a great job on that one. All right. The softballs are over. No more layups. We're going to go right for it now. So Drew, I know you can handle, major league pitching.
Oh, yeah.
So here we go.
How much free rent?
That's easy.
Yeah.
No.
More.
That'd be way too easy. All right. So public transportation has been heavily impacted. There's violent crime. There's a public school crisis. There's a long list of issues in the city that everybody's going to have to deal with. How do you see the city handling this to get people back on the trains, back in the office, and back to life?
Okay. Oh, yeah, I didn't want to say anything. Well, that, and then we just saw some situations with trying to get kids back to school. Let's just layer it on, get it all out. We've got a challenge within the city. And I think in the beginning, I was more nervous, I think, than I am today. I feel like I always start with safety. And so I think the things, and I know one of the earlier panels was talking about Michigan Avenue and how that suffered with the smash and grabs and some of those things. And then, and the encouragement, if you will, by not, incarcerating those people for a certain amount of time for what's going on. And then you read about the guy in New York that just got elected and you're like, oh my God, here we go. So it's an interesting world out there for sure. But I think, that's the first stop, is that we have a safe environment for our employers, therefore our employees. I know that the city likes to collect taxes. That seems to be another thing that's we know about. And the more, the better from them. So in order to, I think, earn the taxes, you've got to deliver on the other goods, and that is to make it a safe environment and know that you've got our back, then we've got your back. And that's the only way we're ever going to get out of this. I know I have a wife who's a residential broker up in the suburbs. And, 2 years ago when things kicked in and COVID and then some of the more recent, things that happened in River North and some of the other neighborhoods, the home sales were off the charts. I mean, people were buying homes off of brokers walking through with iPhones. I mean, they didn't even come see them. And so there was less than 1 month of inventory. So these things do have an impact and have an effect. If we can get that to calm down, if we can get the mayor to commit, which she sounds more vigorous about on the, securing the city and creating the right environment for everyone to get back to work, then that trickles to the investors wanting to come back and be interested. Then the cycles were back again. And so that is, what I think has got to happen. Transportation wise, we actually met several times with the mass transit, and more kind of suburban than CTA, but the metro side of it, and talking about air and health and, filters and air changes, all the things we were learning about how to modify our office space to deal with the COVID situation needs to be incorporated in the transportation to make people feel safe to come back. They have spent a lot of money. They've done a lot of marketing. I believe I'm seeing it now as I drive in. People, it's hard to get in my parking garage because everybody's walking from the trains again. And I kind of smiled and said, I don't mind sitting here for a minute and let everybody walk by because it hasn't been that way. So I do think, there's that situation that's occurring. And then does that allow people then to be able to feel safer about either moving, relocating the burbs or coming back downtown, and creating a nice equilibrium, which I think can be had here. You know what I mean? Where everybody wins. There are no winners and losers. Everybody gets their share of the pie.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Ralph, this one's for you. You own 2 mega redevelopments that you've coined as Metroburbs. One's in suburban New York City. The other is here in suburban Chicago in Hoffman Estates. You're considered a visionary by many. Rising vacancy rates and with lack of absorption. Why are you investing in these suburban locations? What are you seeing? How will you succeed? How have you succeeded? And how will others succeed in this market?
Loaded question. While I answer that, maybe a picture is worth 1,000 words. If we can go to the next slide and show what we've done inside. Go one more, maybe. And you get a feeling of, that doesn't feel like a suburban office. You could flick through a few of them so people could see what we have. These are urban spaces that are located in a great suburban area. So we coined a term, we call it a Metroburb, a metropolis in suburbia. And, we're sitting here and, you guys are pulling the rope on the urban side and we're supposed to be pulling on the suburban side. But, we're all pretty much the same. And it's not like an urban night is one thing and a suburban night is another, although maybe in New Jersey it is a little bit more. The bottom line is that we all want the same stuff. We want urban cool. We want urban comfort. We want urban convenience. We don't need, just because our office has to be in the suburb, whether it's location wise, it's workforce wise, whatever it is, maybe it's the price per square foot that we're willing to pay. Maybe this particular office doesn't want to take public transportation all the time. Whatever the reason is, we don't need to be in boring, mind-numbing spaces. The old philosophy of build a parking lot with a building in it, shove people in it, that's gone. So, we talk about vacancy rates and everything else. Bell Works is not designed to profit from rising vacancy, from lowered vacancy rates and rising occupancy rates. That's not our strategy. Our strategy is to capture an outsized share of an existing market. We create a category killer space, unlike anything else in the suburbs. In New Jersey, we talked about BOMA, how many people are in the space. I think we have just about 30% occupied, but our shops are open. Our coffee shops are open late. There's events going on. The retail is thriving. We just opened additional retail. Imagine, if you will, a office building that has thriving retail inside the space. And we opened a bar. We thought it would be a loss leader because we thought we needed to create life at work. Well, that bar is making money. Everybody's happy except for my mother. But we literally have created that type of vibe, and it's bringing people in from the outside. It's not living on the office people. They're not there that much. So the fact that you could create an urban vibe and that cool in suburbia, Steve, that's what we're counting on. We're counting on bringing that category killer experience to a suburban market. Add in convenience, add in the safety, add in the fresh air, all the greenery that you have both outside and inside. Add all that in, the fact that we're a 3-story building and not a 40-story building. Talk about challenges of getting up and down. You could just take the stairs. It's just something that we are not looking at the rest of the marketplace. We're not really we never concerned ourselves. When we started Bell Works New Jersey, we started in an office market in 2012, 2013, over 30% vacancy rates, but we outleased our entire marketplace and we drove our rents. Our rents are on par with some of the, fringe Manhattan spaces now. So we drove our rents to be more than 10, some cases $15 a square foot more than our surrounding marketplace, and outleased it. So that's our strategy.
That's very good. Thank you.
Although I would add, though, that I think you are the exception to the rule in the suburbs. You know, the
Hope
amenities,
so.
the amenities arms race has been going on for 3 to 5 years at least now downtown, Drew, as you know, and it's amazing what it would be like to be graduating college right now and working in a downtown office building. You know, it's, you know, we were given, you know, a phone book and a desk and bad, you know, light and office space and said, go work. So it's, I do think this more you know, I dabble in the suburbs and I've seen a lot of buildings that still say, look at this great deli time for food and look at the, you know, fitness center in the basement with 6 machines. So I do think the suburbs are finally getting the memo, if you will. And I think that's gonna help across, you know, high tides float.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
agree
ships.
with you. I just want to point out one thing. We always say that the ultimate amenity is life. It's people. So we're not looking at creating a great gym that's there, you know, just for the office. Our gym is open to the public. Our coffee shop is open to the public. Our restaurant that we're doing now is open to the public. The idea is it has to, and they're paying rent. So it has to survive on its own. We're not going to dictate to our employee base that our tenants that they have to eat turkey on Tuesday. The market will dictate that, and they will be able to. So really, it's not just a simple amenity. It's what you have in Fulton. When you go to Fulton, you have street life. You have that world. We're creating that in the suburbs.
Well, certainly it's quality of life. And Alan Hamilton and Ron Lenton, if we could put up some of the Hamilton Lakes slides, you know, believed in creating this 300-acre amenity with 3 miles of walking trails around lakes and health clubs and conference centers and all those types of things you need in a space to create this quality of life. And we believe in that wholly for 40 years now. We've been putting those types of amenities out in the marketplace. And, you know, it's an issue where, you know, I get my workout in out at work. You know, I had a place downtown, it just didn't work for me. And it's one of those things where we all see each other, we dine together, we work together, we go out on walks, we do walking meetings around the lake. So it's one of those things that you're not going to get that in your house. And that's what we're going to try to do to get them out of the bedrooms and get them out of my dining room and back into the office. The beauty of it that we had back in 2015 when we had this boom downtown and everyone thought that all the kids, the 25-year-olders wanted to be downtown. Well, it was true. There was a blip in the birth rate in 1990, 4.2 million births. And those people were 25 years old in 2015, and they all headed downtown. The good news for the suburbs is 7 years later, they're 32 now. They might have started a family. They're going to start looking out west, up north. The good news is there was another blip in 2007, 2008 of about 4.4 million births. So those 25-year-olds are now going to still be coming downtown. So I think the beauty of Chicago is it's such a dynamic market that we can have both a healthy downtown and a healthy suburbs. And I think that the tenants will gravitate towards the quality. And Matt, as you said it yesterday, you have the landlords gotten the letter that you really got to upgrade stuff. And I think the people on this board have, and that's why I think it's good news for us that we'll be able to get those young people back to work.
And you know, those amenities have to evolve as well. You know, I think the standard conference center that, you know, landlords had to check the box. It was normally, well, we can seat up to 150 classroom style and we can draw a drape and split it in 2. That doesn't cut it anymore. You know, now with tenants taking less space and that really with flexible work now, they really need a place where I need a 10-person team to come in and use it for the day. I mean, we're paying it for it anyway out of operating expenses. So, or the tenants are. So, you know, you need more flexibility, you know, with the conference center, with, you know, a 5-person, a 10-person, a 20-person. Again, that needs to evolve as the workplace evolves.
This doesn't feel like a tug of war. This feels like kumbaya.
All right, then we need to get to another question.
Yeah, come on.
Let's stir this thing up.
I need to get pissed
All right, we're
here.
gonna stir it up right now. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Paul, this is coming right at you. You ready? All right. The residential market seems to remain hot in the suburbs. What's driving this? Is there a demographic shift happening? And how will employers respond to this, in your opinion?
Oh, I think there is a demographic shift. And I think the affordability of homes out in DuPage and in northwestern Cook County is just incredible in relation to downtown. I think the residential market has been distorted in many ways because there's not enough product out there. We have mortgage brokers in our buildings and we say, have you ever seen anything like this? People have been in the business for 40 years, have never seen it. But I think, again, we've got great locations, great quality of life for individuals, good schools. DuPage has a balanced budget, has no pension problems. We were talking earlier about real estate taxes. Real estate taxes in DuPage County for offices is about, $3 a foot. So we have the economical office space, fantastic communities like the Oak Brooks and the Napervilles and the Hinsdales. And I think it's a tough thing to beat if you've got two kids. That week I was sitting at home before I went back to the office, I would look out my window and just watch these young couples with little kids pushing strollers down the street. What was fascinating to me was it was both parents. So they were both home working with a toddler. And this one little guy kept coming down the street and he kept bolting from the parents and running down the side alley. About 45 minutes, there's my productivity at home. I'm up looking out the window at all the kids coming down the street. But I just felt for that young couple that they didn't have a backyard for these kids to run around in. So
are you leaving Lincoln Park and moving to the suburbs?
I know I'm a hypocrite.
Love it. Hey, Drew, Dan, do you guys want to retort on any of that as far as the downtown resident? Drew, your wife's a residential.
Yeah, she's both. I mean, she's at property, so it's the 500-pound gorilla. She's done deals in both locations. There was, when early COVID and some of the things that happened downtown kicked into gear, there was an initial rush, if you will, to come see homes up in the suburbs. I think that's kind of, like I said, it's reached an equilibrium and it's kind of flowed back and forth. But the one thing I think that would be interesting, Steve, it's like that we haven't chatted is COVID has created a new environment for all of us to develop buildings or, show tenants around and say, what should that new environment look like? Because that's really what it is. It's first, can the employer recruit and retain his best people? And where can he best do that? And then what does that product look like that houses that, right? And I remember 2000 when, technology was a big deal, right? It kicked in. And I remember the term technology-enabled building. Do you have a technology-enabled building? Oh my God, you don't? You're screwed, and you might as well just tear it down or turn it into residential or a hotel or whatever. That's been supplanted by health and wellness, right? And there are a lot of buildings that would have similar issues that back when they had to upgrade technology. Now it's, can you upgrade and retrofit the health and wellness aspects of it if it's an existing building? Obviously, if it's a new building, you can incorporate new things in there. And obviously it's much easier to do. And so I'm kind of curious about how that is going to play out in the landscape of, 100 million or 135 million square feet downtown and then some in the suburbs.
100%.
Are there actual buildings that, are going to have a tough time? And then, what happens to that? And then the winners start to be those that can handle this new environmental condition, a lot of it with natural fresh air, which then leads you to the suburbs because you got a lot of space, you got a lot of open space. We're talking about balconies, terraces, but I mean exclusive, not collaborative. I mean collaborative, but not for the whole building, not a joint thing, but that is your fourth floor balcony. And people are really right now, at least what I can see, prospective tenants are really gravitating to those kind of spaces. And in interesting numbers, not to do a commercial, but we've got 2 new buildings we're about to develop in Denver and Charlotte. I think one of them, the architect for the building was on 2 panels ago, Yoakum, at Getch. I think we had 12 balconies and terraces in one high-rise building and like 13 in the other, because that's what people want right now. And in making that design look cool and fit in and making it all work, it's really become a huge thing, almost more than the fitness center and the conference center.
It's
No,
a little cyclical, 'cause some of the buildings, it's a cyclical thing, these outdoor balconies.
right. Yeah, well, you can use them so often though here in Chicago, like
Right.
at least 4 to 5 months a
Yeah,
year.
exactly.
We've developed building scorecards for our clients, for our tenants, and it's interesting how they've evolved because they used to be location was number one, financial was number two, and then other things. And it was on a recent 30,000-foot deal we're working on because every landlord was so damn aggressive. We took financial out, and pretty much anywhere you can get anywhere in Chicago from the trains or drive anywhere in the loop at about the same amount of time.
Mhm.
But so the number one criteria we used was flexibility in the lease, and number two was health and wellness, ESG. So I think, especially now, with the uncertainty of how well work from home is going to be, will things gravitate back? Flexibility is even more important. And then when we get people in, how safe is it? And I think it's about time. I mean, I felt like I lived in a sick building for 20 years before, 2 years ago.
What happened in the good old days, whereas if you could figure out where the CEO lived,
That's right.
you knew you were going to make the deal.
If they can walk to the building, then that's where you go, right?
Yeah, the CEO has to move now. Right.
I just want to jump onto what you guys were saying. One of the things that we as landlords and developers have to resist is, looking at all the vacancy that's out there and not charging enough rent to be able to deliver the quality experience. We really have to resist that quick deal. Easy for me to say, we're starting with a 1.2 million square feet of office, but we've got our first few deals. So Steve, here's to you. We definitely want to, we have to, if we're going to have to give healthy buildings and all this great experiences and all these great amenities and everything else, tenants will come and they will pay the price. Another thing we all know, there's a lot of downsizing. So we have a company, I can't say the name, but this happened in New Jersey, at Bellworks, New Jersey. They were looking pre-COVID at 72,000 feet. Which for us is one floor plate and 1/4 of one floor plate, big building, 72,000 feet on one floor. This was a company that was downsizing, technology company, but was downsizing from over 300,000. This is all pre-COVID. Today, their space is finished. They're about ready to move in. And they're now in less than 30,000 feet. They took less than 30,000 feet from us. So their entire world shrunk from 300,000 to 30,000. But they're paying for that 30,000 about $10 more square foot than they were going to pay for the 72. We got to deliver the quality, we got to deliver the experience, and we got to be able to look people in the eye and say, we're going to make it worth your while, because the cost per employee, especially when companies are downsizing like that, is going to go down. It's not going to go up, even if we hold that line.
All right, so guys, we have just a few minutes, but so I'm throwing out a few of these questions. Not going to ask them, but there are a couple that I want to get to. So please just give a quick answer. And I wanted to get to this. And so Drew, we've talked about this big price gap. And Dan sort of hit on this a little bit, sort of put economics aside, but big price gap between the city and the suburbs. It's between 50 and 75%, depending on if it's A or B. At the top of the market, there's a 75% gap between the top of the A downtown and top of the A suburban. What do you think is going to happen? You think that gap is going to narrow? Do you think people don't care? Cost not an issue? Is it going to drive people to the burbs?
Sorry. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. You're my handler. I love you, man. You're right. There is. I think we were doing the math the other day on the phone, depending on where you are, and the taxes and operating, which Chicago just leads the country. Isn't that exciting? It's something you don't want to lead in T&OE. But if you throw a $30 T&OE number, which is a brand new building, fully stabilized on top of rents, we're approaching $70 to $75 gross. And that's, real rent. Now I say that, and then I turn to a guy from New York who looks at me like, that's like a warehouse.
It's a deal.
I know. So I always start my tours with, where are you from? You're going to
Five
love
gross.
it. Yeah, right, exactly. And so, but I think that gap is there, but the gap's there you know, like Ralph said, for a reason. We're delivering the best new, healthy, quality building. We'll give you flexibility in your lease. Right now, you just want them to make a commitment. And the flexibility you got to offer is they don't know enough yet to know exactly how big they are. I think that they're probably still 6 months away from knowing that. So in order to be able to get them to sign today, you got to give them a plus or minus and do a few of those things and then work with them as they get in, and then they'll be comfortable enough making a commitment. But I think because they'll probably be taking less space, they'll be able to pay that. They'll feel better about the premium. But I think when it comes to health of their employees, I don't know if you can put a price tag on that. I mean, you really, because they got to be able to recruit. And if they got cool space, it'll help.
Excellent. All right, so just one quick, and guys, Ralph and Paul, just a quick yes or no on this one. Again, I think it's something we wanted to bring up. So during 2021, I just went through and did some math. Between the two of you guys, you did about 50 deals. During 2021, there were less than 6,000 square feet. Most of these terms are pretty short in term, and it looked like they had very low TI. So they were like market-ready spaces. Do you see this trend continuing?
Yes, it's the only way to drive some activity. You know, when we're missing out on these 40 and 50s, as Ralph was talking about, it's the way to get some, and you start adding up the 4s and the 5s, you get somewhere. So yes.
Absolutely, yes. And since Paul, didn't stick to just a yes and no, I won't either. Just want to say we've created at Bellworks, we've created an ecosystem. So we have our co-working space, collab. We have our ready to wear, which are these literally like, you know, from 700 to 3,000 square foot, pre-designed, pre-furnished many times suites. And we used to go to the larger built-to-suits. Now, because of the pandemic, we've introduced what we call campus at Bellworks, which is about 5,000 to 6,000 square foot, pre-designed, many times pre-built, and we're leasing those up with better lease terms as well. So you don't need to have a 10-year lease. You don't need to bring in your own architect and designer and everything else. We keep our leases simpler, shorter, and provide flexibility. So companies know they can, like, you know, Drew, you said they don't even know what the future is. Well, you want to move into a building, you want to move into an address, and you want to know you can upsize or downsize. Making those terms easy and providing these pre-built spaces is definitely the way. It's not the way to fill up a building. You know, your bank will never be happy, but a certain percentage, 10, 15, maybe even 20% of your building, absolutely the way to go.
Good, thanks, guys. So we have 3 minutes and 6 seconds for questions. We want to keep it at 45 minutes. So does anybody have a question? Or is everyone too tired and ready to go eat lunch?
No lunch today, not here.
All right, we answered all the questions. That's excellent.